And so Ryan Martin, the head coach at Loudoun United, is joining us here to start things off in hour number 2. Coach, welcome to the morning show. Thanks for dropping by.
John, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. Look forward to speaking with you, and thanks for the interest in Loudoun.
All right, so let me go back to, and what I don't want to do is, yes, we all need to be properly hydrated. So what is the glass and what's in the glass? Because I always ask what's in the mug if it's coffee or anything like that.
So right now I'm doing a Polar Seltzer.
There you go.
Yeah, it's my go-to. My wife's and I my go-to. So stay hydrated. It gives you little bubbles, gives you a little flavor. It starts your morning off right.
There you go. When you started with Loudoun, let me go back to that day one. Do you remember what your first day of work was like?
Yeah, it was a kind of a crazy one because I came basically like 10 or 11 games into the season from when Richie Williams went up to New England. And I actually flew in from Dublin, Ireland. I got a call when I landed from doing my UEFA license with the FAI. And, Dave Casper was like, hey, Richie's taking this job. Would you be interested? Blah, blah, blah. I said, absolutely. I knew most of the kids at the time. I knew what their goals and ambitions were. I also knew I wanted to coach at that level. And so when he offered, it was a pretty easy decision. And then my first day was really, coming in and I think it was really more of a, how do I help the players here get to where you want to go? I think that was an important one because the club at the time really wanted a bridge between the academy and the first team. And, that was my goal at the time. So yeah, it was basically a meeting of like, look, I know most of you, but here are the expectations. Obviously there's a developmental piece in it, but when you get into the professional world, and in particular USL Championship, wins and losses do matter, and unfortunately, when you get to the MLS, yeah, we want you to continue to develop, continue to grow, but people's jobs, rely on it, whether at that time it was Ben Olsen or, Hernan Lasota or Wayne Rooney, it was, all very similar where like, no, people's livelihoods, including your own, revolve around your continued growth, but also the execution of what you can do right and wrong in those moments.
How have you grown as a director of player personnel? How have you grown as both a desk guy and as a coach in your time there at Loudoun?
Yeah, I think for me, I've always approached my job and my career with a growth mindset where I've tried to just continue to educate myself, and whether that's with courses or whether that's with reading or meeting people. Some of the biggest ways over the last 5 years, and I always like to say that hopefully, if you worked with me 5 years ago, or when I reflect on where I was 5 years ago, I laugh about, where I maybe was as a coach. So I think that's a good sign of growth. But I've done my UEFA B, UEFA A with the Republic of Ireland. I'm currently doing my US Soccer Pro license. I've actually gone a whole different direction. I found a coach to work with that's helped me in terms of my process, my messaging, the narrative that I control. I use a guy called Cody Royal, who's up in Canada, Aussie Rules, but has worked with a lot of different people. And he refers to it as like a second set of eyes, in terms of, the coaching industry in this world right now, the head coaching, it's a very tough position to be in. You don't have a lot of feedback from people that have been in your shoes. If you, even look, I know you're down in Atlanta and in the South and stuff. It's like, I wonder what feedback Rob's getting right now in terms of what he's doing right or what he's doing wrong. Or is he just trying to figure it out by himself because nobody above him has sat in those shoes? So for me, it was important to reach out and find somebody that has done it, that can come from a perspective of growth and trying to become better and give me some ideas to maybe make myself and the team better.
Who else is on your speed dial when you have one of those moments where you're like, I've got to shut the door here for a second and dial somebody up? Obviously you've got a great start. Who else is on that speed dial for you when you need to bounce an idea off of folks?
Yeah, I probably reflect back, and so I obviously got a coach, but I also have a couple mentors that I rely heavily on. One is Jay Vidovich, who's up at University of Pittsburgh, who I worked for 9 years with at Wake Forest University, and obviously I saw in the email you had Parky in earlier, who's obviously an alum and stuff like that. So I spent a lot of time with Jay, which is a great mentor I've had. My father is the head coach at Ohio Wesleyan University in Columbus and is the all-time winningest coach in college soccer history. So that's another one. And then I was fortunate enough to work with John Harkes in Cincinnati. So, those would be probably my three biggest mentors, where if I have a question, a thought, those are kind of the three that I'll reach out to.
Head coach at Loudoun United and USL Championship, Director of Player Personnel at DC United, Ryan Martin, hanging out with us. He survived the feature with Maddie Cruz, and so he's hanging out with us here on the morning show. You look at what's going on right now with Loudoun, and unbeaten in your last 5 across the board. I think a lot of folks may not necessarily understand how tough at times USL Championship is as a league. And you are in a situation right now where you're in, we were kind of using the Tour de France analogies this morning involving Major League Soccer, where you've got the big group, you've got the lead group, and you have the two chase groups. Right now, you're in a group where you are a win out of being in 5th, but if somebody has a good week, you could be below the playoff bar. For someone who hasn't had the chance to see what's going on in USL Championship, how tough is it?
Yeah, it's an incredibly challenging league, and I think when you start looking at the different results coming across the board, even Wednesday, I think Rhode Island beats Birmingham, and you got Oakland, who's number 2 in the West. They get hammered by Pittsburgh 5-0, and I think on any night, really anyone can beat anyone in the league. I think, that's the beauty of the league right now. We beat Tampa a couple weeks ago, and, they then go on to beat different. It's like, anyone can beat anyone. And it's really a search for consistency. It's a really good league in terms of there's a lot of quality players, young, but also guys that have had decent careers in MLS or overseas. And, for whatever reason, maybe not getting a chance in MLS, but are really talented players. And I think when you also look at it, the pool of coaches is quite impressive with the people coming through the league. And I think, so that really helps with the overall quality. I mean, at Tampa, you've got a guy that's coached, the Scottish Premier League, and you've got, Danny Cruz is doing a great job. Ben Pierman, Bob Lilly's a legend of the game, Mark Briggs out West. And, the list really goes on, so it's a great league for a lot of different ways. And it is challenging because I think the other thing that people don't really understand about the USL is the travel and the lack of maybe resources that MLS teams have. We don't charter flights, so if you play in, like today, for example, I wake up and, all the airports are down and whatnot. If we were traveling today, we'd be stuck in the airport for 8 hours and then we'd still have to play tomorrow wherever we were going, and and it happens to every team in the USL. We were flying back from Sacramento and we got detoured to San Francisco for 12 hours and then had to play 2 days later against El Paso at home. And, when you look at those type of things, which happen to all the different teams, it makes for even more difficult, moments in your journey as a team.
When you have a roster that can have such a wide age difference, you could have players who could be late 20s, early 30s. You could be what Lou City tries to put together at times, or they have in years past, where you've got a Cameron Lancaster who's a true veteran of the league in times past. But then you've also got the academy folks that are 16, 17, and they're trying to learn and get to that next step in the next stage of their careers. How difficult is it for a coach these days to navigate these age differences and get the messaging across to where it impacts both sets of players, the experienced player and the young player? How difficult is it for a coach these days to gauge how your message is put across and make sure that it's as impactful as it is for younger players as it is for vets?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I think this might be the first year I've ever coached a group that has somebody over 25. So I've kind of been on both ends of that, and I know So when you're dealing with the young players and young talents and young pros, the biggest thing I've learned is you have to teach them how to become professionals, and that's a search for consistency. What are training habits? And we've created a little bit of a, just based off my experience with these kids and what they're missing, a roadmap to becoming a pro. And it's how do you deal with critical moments in games? How do you deal with failure? How do you deal with, a lot of it's on the mental side of it where they don't really get it. They're talented for sure, which is why they're there. But when you have a kid that comes in and he gives you a performance that's a 9 out of 10 and he scores a goal, in the USL, and then the next 3 games, he's, 2 out of 10. The question is, how do you get him to 6, 7 out of 10 consistently? And that's been a hard part for a lot of these kids. And then what I found with the older group and kind of merging that is really it comes down to, the belief of you can make older players better still. And you can, all players want honesty, and they want the ability for someone to help them improve, which is what I always try to do. The older players, I try to give more ownership of what we're doing here. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones driving the ship. And if you find the right group of older players, which I think we've started to find here at Loudoun, we've got a tremendous group of older guys that are really, I give a lot of ownership to. That helps the younger kids so much more, in my experience. If I look back at where Loudoun was 3 years ago, and we had, I think, the second youngest team in the world of football, if I would have had 3 29, 20, 30, 31-year-old players to help mentor these players and on the field give them answers and solutions and help them through difficult moments when they're playing Louisville or Tampa or Pittsburgh, it would have helped their growth even more. So I've taken a lot of lessons from that in my last 4 or 5 years.
You got 9 different goal scorers this year. And you're very popular this morning, man. That's good.
Yeah, it's incredible. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. It's like, yeah. Man, your phone's blowing up. I'm not taking you away from anything, am I? It's like they're not just like, you got to be meeting right now. Where are you? Not one of those.
Yeah. No issues there.
You got 9 different goal scorers this year, and you mentioned some of those younger players that were a part of that youngest group ever, I think, in the history of ever. Because I remember seeing Abdelatif Abukura, who, when he was just starting out in the organization, you've got an experienced guy in Florian Velo who's contributing, but you got 9 different goal scorers. Zach Ryan right now at the top of the ladder for you. What's it like to get the kind of output from all of these different places that you're getting so far this year to be above the playoff bar in the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, I mean, when we went into the season, we knew it was going to have to be a collective effort. We knew it was going to have to be goals coming from various different players and different positions. And we've gotten just that. And we knew Zach would be at the top. That was kind of something we knew overall. But overall, it's like, all right, how do we support him with more goals? I think last year we got, 1 goal from our central midfielders. This year already we've got 3, 4, 5. In that moment there. So from my end, it's always been collective with this group. So that's where we've gone. And, it says a lot about the group that we're able to score in so many different ways.
When you've got a weekend off, your next match is in the midweek. And so you've got a weekend off. Do you let the players decompress a little bit? Do you taper your schedule? Do you taper the practice schedule? How much of an eye do you still keep on them? Do you want them watching film? Are you watching film? Are you going to the mall? What do you do with an off week?
I wish I had time to golf or go to the mall, but we basically played this past Saturday, flew back Sunday, and then we were in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and we used it as our kind of training fitness push week. And then we gave them Thursday, Friday off, and then we'll have a 4-day build into Charleston and then a 2-day build into Pittsburgh on the road. So now it's the next 7 days are, all hands on deck to see what kind of results we can get against 2 of the top teams in the league. So that was it. In terms of my weekly, daily situation right now, it's watching, watching Charleston, watching Pittsburgh, trying to figure out ways to get results, trying to plan for the upcoming, 2 games, and then Miami on the back end. So you try to take a break and get a bike ride or get your fitness in and keep yourself going on a mental standpoint. But then it also becomes, it doesn't stop. The preparation, the reflection, that just doesn't stop.
Let me ask about what soccer means to the Loudoun area. For those of us that may just be able to only watch a game from Segra on however we're watching games and don't get to be there in person and see how the soccer footprint is there in Loudoun, how would you best break down what soccer means to that part of the U.S. up there in Virginia, suburban D.C. and Virginia?
Yeah, I across the street from our stadium is, Loudoun Soccer Club, which is one of the, per number of players is one of the biggest in the country. And I think it's around, 10,000 kids playing in that area. We have numerous other youth clubs in the area that are growing and getting bigger and bigger. Soccer in this area, in particular, Northern Virginia, has been, one of the biggest, but it's also produced a lot of really talented men and women that have gone on to play in various different top leagues and top colleges around the area. So it means a lot. And I think when you look at, DC United plays at Audi Field, and you got, the Spirit at Audi Field, the new women's pro league team at Audi Field, we are really the only thing in Northern Virginia for soccer and most other professional sports. So, for us, it means a lot, and it means us that, the community is a huge part of everything that we do. And so for us, it's important to try to embrace it and really bring something special and something that people want to watch. I think the access that the players give to the fans is also a really big thing. I think when you come out, you can get autographs, you can meet your favorite players. So it's a fun venue to really watch. I don't love the turf field, and our players don't, but the venue itself is a fun venue to see players up close.
And especially when you get to sit on the berm in the end zone in years past, and you get to sit there and be all kinds of crowded and be right there on top of everything. Ryan, thanks for answering the siren call for Maddie and letting us know what's been going on there at Loudoun with you and the growth of Loudoun United. And thanks for coming on the morning show. As you're in the middle of this big rush getting ready for the matchup against Charleston coming up in the midweek. Thanks for coming by. We really appreciate it. Thanks for everything that you've done for us on a bunch of different levels here at SDH on the network. Be safe, be well, and may your phone calm down and not ding so much. Just moments of peace.
Yeah, to be honest with you, that's probably the biggest thing I should do is just turn my phone off for a couple of days, and then I can do more work at that point. So
now, am I hearing correctly that it sounds like someone wants to go OUT for a couple of minutes? Was I hearing a collar shaking in the background?
Oh yeah, I've got a dog that's floating around here, running around. So
we are a dog friendly network. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, I've got a 13.6 pound Pekingese poodle that my wife and I rescued, and he's a lot of energy, but he keeps us going. So that's on the agenda today at some point as well.
What's the name?
Benji.
Okay, because we have here in the house, the boss has a 14-pound Peke as well, who is Rowdy, and the initial name was we decided to do that for irony, but then once he figured out that he actually could have a personality and that was allowed, it actually has fit him more. So from those of us here at Office HD and Rowdy to Benji and all of the Martins, thanks for coming by on the morning show. Good luck good luck early next week. Thanks for hanging out with Maddie. We'll catch up with you soon, my friend.
John, appreciate it.